If you feel pain in the front or even back of your shoulder when you lift your arm overhead or your shoulder rotates in or out, I'm gonna show you how to fix it in this video. First, we need to determine whether the problem is coming from more of the front or the back side of your body and shoulder. And once we know that, we can give you a couple of exercises that should make an immediate impact. I'm gonna show you two really easy assessments that will help determine whether you have more tightness on the front side or the back side of your shoulder and rib cage.
So for this first assessment, Connor's gonna take his left shoulder and he's gonna bring his elbow up to where it's at a 90-degree angle. Right there is perfect, so we don't want it to be too high or too low. Now what he's gonna do is he's just going to let his palm drop down towards the table or the floor until he feels like he's stuck or his shoulder wants to pop up. So if Connor shows us that right there, that's what you don't wanna do. So I'm gonna do it one more time, coming up at this starting angle. He's gonna go forward nice and slow till he feels that end range. For him, it's right about there. We're just gonna measure that angle to have an idea of where he's coming in at before doing some of these activities.
The first test, shoulder internal rotation, is assessing for how much tightness or restriction is on the front side of your body and your shoulder. Now, if you have less than 70 degrees, then that is an indication that you have some degree of restriction here. That tightness and restriction is causing your shoulder to be pulled forward, which is going to be rounding that shoulder a little bit, and that is going to restrict the ability for you to access that internal rotation space.
All right, for the second assessment, what you're gonna do is we're gonna start with Connor's arm right down by his side, his elbow making this 90-degree angle, and he's just gonna let his knuckles rotate out towards the floor on the side of his body. If he gets stuck or he's not really sure where that elbow is, we can put something like a towel in between his elbow and his side to give him some reference. Two things to keep in mind here is we want all the motion coming through the arm. So I don't want to see Connor's ribs flare up as he does this, or I don't want to see his sternum turn towards that side either.
The second test, shoulder external rotation like this, is assessing for how much tightness is on the back side of your rib cage and the back side of your shoulder. The more restricted you are off from 90 degrees, which would be like this, the more you're gonna have tightness of tissues in between the shoulder blade and the spine. So the more tight you are, the more that shoulder is gonna be pulled closer. It's not gonna be able to effectively move away. So you have a lot of restriction here, which is limiting that shoulder's mobility. Okay, so now we have our data. Now, ideally, again, we had 70 degrees for shoulder internal rotation, 90 degrees for shoulder external rotation. But you need to determine which one of those numbers you're further away from. So if I had 60 degrees of shoulder internal rotation, but 45 degrees of shoulder external rotation, then it's clear to me that shoulder external rotation is the larger limitation, and I have more of a restriction on the back side of my shoulder. So I gotta address that. But if I had something like 35 degrees of shoulder internal rotation and 70 degrees of shoulder external rotation, then I know that the problem is coming more from the front side. So now let's go over some exercises that will address both of these things. And if you have a massive restriction in both shoulder internal and external rotation, just do both. Okay, this first one is for those limited in shoulder internal rotation. This is gonna open up the front side of the body and chest. And I'm gonna demo it, but honestly guys, I'm curious, do you like it when I do it and I show you these exercises? Or do you like it when I have someone else that I can talk through it as they demo it? Because I've seen people say they prefer both. So just let me know down below in the comments which one you'd like me doing moving forward. So all you need is a door frame or a rack like this. And you're gonna have your palm down, or it can be up, whatever's more comfortable on your shoulder. It doesn't really matter that much. I like going palm down though. And you want it directly at the level of your shoulder. You wanna be facing straight on right here. Now you're gonna take a very slight step back with the same side of the arm that's on that door frame or pull. And this is the key. You're gonna bend your knees very slightly and round your back a little bit. You don't wanna be arched, just a little bit of rounding. Now, watch what I do. I'm going to very subtly drop my left shoulder very slightly down, keeping a rounded back, and that's gonna really open up and stretch out this area. And this is your lat muscle. Your lat muscle pulls your shoulder in and forward. So we're going to open up that muscle and also the chest. Now, I should feel a decent stretch here, maybe just like a 4, 5 out of 10. Don't push it too hard, doesn't have to be that much. And now I'm going to be kind of in this position like here. I'm going to exhale all the air out, and that's going to give me more compression. That's gonna activate my left side abs. I'm going to then pause and inhale through my nose, and that's going to then open this up more and more. So it should be a soft and silent inhale, but a full exhale. Longer and softer is always better than harder and more forceful on both of these exercises. So one more time, at shoulder height, very small step back, bend the knees, round the back, and then turn very subtly into it. Now I'm gonna exhale. Got the side abs on the left. Inhale very softly but fully. And I feel all this open up really nicely. What you should not do is this with a big step back, crank it into it like this. Don't do this. This is not gonna give you what you're looking for. It should be subtle. It should be nice and relaxed. Just a slight turn, 4 or 5 out of 10 stretch is all you need. If you like these exercises and this type of a perspective, check out my shoulder health program. It's designed for anyone to be able to do. And it also has not only range of motion exercises, but also strengthening exercises. So you will unlock range of motion, but also work to own it and control it with this program. So it's very comprehensive. If you want to learn more, check it out down below in the description. This next one, same thing. All you need is a door frame or a rack. You're going to have now a low reaching angle. Generally, you want about less than 60 degrees of an angle of your arm relative to your trunk. Now, facing it straight on, you're going to have a grip like this right here. And you should be close enough to where you can comfortably just have like 10% of an elbow bend right here. Now, you're going to take a small, very small step back with that same side's leg and foot. You're gonna get heavy on this left foot or whatever side you're reaching with. Now you're gonna bend both knees and you're still gonna turn into it, but you wanna do it in a specific way. You want to feel like the space between your shoulder blade and your spine is moving away from each other, like that. We call this action protraction. So I'm gonna go here, get that low reach, and I'm going to turn my sternum very slightly to the left, reaching my arm away from me as I do it, maintaining that slight elbow bend. This is going to give me a very slight stretch between my shoulder blade and my spine. Do not over rotate. Do not crank into it as much as you can like that. That will not give you the benefit you're looking for. Very slight, very slight. And now I feel that slight stretch. Now I'm gonna exhale all the air out. At the end of that exhale, I'm gonna feel my side abs of the side I'm turning towards. That's my left here. And then I'm gonna hold those very gently, softly inhale through my nose. And you should feel that space in between your shoulder blades and spine open up. Silent inhale, but extended exhale, not overdoing the force or intensity. Make sure that the turn is coming from your sternum. You don't want the turn coming from your hips as much or your head as much. This bone rotating that way is really what you're looking for. I'd recommend doing these exercises for 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 8 slow breaths. The breathing component is absolutely huge here. Now, you could do both if you have a restriction in both, but I would try to do at least 2 to 3 sets daily, and optimally, you can do them in both the morning and the night. Now that you have more range of motion, it's important that we actually strengthen that range of motion a little bit, or work through to own it at least. So you can do exercises now, like your traditional rotator cuff activities, but now you have a really good idea of what your genuine range of motion is. So you'd want to do something like a banded internal rotation exercise, working to own that motion, but stopping when you know that your genuine range of motion is out. So if you only have 60 degrees of shoulder internal rotation, don't push it past that, because you're not really going to be using the right rotator cuff muscles beyond that range anyway. And for shoulder external rotation, same thing. Stop it when you know your range of motion is done. That's why doing those first exercises are so important. It's gonna unlock more range of motion for you to better train your rotator cuff. So I recommend then doing those exercises, those rotator cuff exercises, for about 2 sets of 15 to 20 slow reps on that shoulder that's giving you issues.